vinyl community. Is that the most recognizable riff in rock and roll? Is that the most unforgettable riff in rock and roll history? Yes. Satisfaction. Yeah, the opening riff for Satisfaction. I can't think of anything that's more memorable than that. Gosh, I guess there probably are some. Crazy Train, Randy Rhoads doing Crazy Train, that's pretty memorable. But yeah, Satisfaction. So today's video is going to be another episode of How'd That Go? How'd That Go is a series that I'm doing where I take one particular song and then show you all the versions I have of that song. It's really easy to do in jazz because there are a lot of jazz standards that get done by a lot of people, but rock and roll, it's not quite as easy. You would think that maybe something like Johnny B. Good would just be all over the place, but really there's not all that many cover versions, at least not that I have. Anyway, but Satisfaction, I do have a few versions of this, so I'm going to show those to you today. Yeah, Satisfaction, or I Can't Get No Satisfaction, written by Mick and Keith. It was not on a British UK version of one of their standard albums. It's on like compilations and live albums, but I guess you know back then in the early 60s they released singles, and then they had albums that didn't have the singles on them. But in the US they released different versions of the albums, and Out of Our Heads, the American version of Out of Our Heads, features Satisfaction as the first song on side 2. Satisfaction, fantastic song that I guess Mick and Keith wrote together. I think Keith came up with that riff. There was another song called, the name of the song is I Can't Be Satisfied by Muddy Waters. They recorded that for their second album, The Rolling Stones No. 2. It's sort of the same theme, really. You know, they sing about I can't be satisfied, still can't keep from, or I just can't keep from crying. I always thought it was I can't keep from trying, but I guess they're saying crying. I guess that's what Muddy Waters. I just now looked online at some of the words, so that's what they came up with that. So, but then they came up with, I guess, sort of a variation on that theme. Yeah, I can't get no satisfaction. They've been looking for it for a long time. I personally have been on the search for Satisfaction myself. I can't find it either. I went with Mick and Keith 3 separate times, twice in California and once here in Nashville. Me and Mick and Keith and a few thousand other people were looking for Satisfaction. We didn't actually find it any of those 3 times, but we had a great time looking for it. The Rolling Stones live. I don't know if there is any song that they have played at every single concert that they play, but I can tell you if I went to see the Rolling Stones and they didn't play Satisfaction, I would be a little bit disappointed. So it is on this album. I think this is their first live album. Got Live If You Want It. And it is, let's see. I think it's on here. Oh, it's the very last song. Very last song on side 2 on this one. So yeah, Rolling Stones, Got Live If You Want It. It's also on their first compilation album, High Tide and Green Grass. This is a really well-worn copy that I have here. I've shown this one several times. This is the really cool album with the booklet on the inside. So I won't go into spend too much time on this, but there are some fantastic photos. Yeah, High Tide and Green Grass. So, yeah, the theme of this video is other people doing the songs, and so greatest, well, I don't know if they're the greatest cover band in the world, maybe the Grateful Dead are the best cover band in the world, but the Ventures. They covered all kinds of hits from the 1960s, and they did not leave out Satisfaction. On this album, from 1965, The Ventures A Go-Go, it is the very first song. Ventures A Go-Go. instrumental version of it here. Otis Redding went all the way to Monterey, California, looking for satisfaction. My understanding is that he didn't find it either, but also continued to look right up to the end of his life. This is a compilation album. This is Otis Redding and Jimi Hendrix Experience at the Monterey Pop Festival. It's one side from each of them. This is a really cool album. Jimmy does like a Rolling Stone on here. So, yeah. Otis also does on this one. He does Shake, Respect, which is a song that he wrote. Aretha made famous, but Otis wrote Respect. I've Been Loving You Too Long. I Can't Get No Satisfaction, then Try a Little Tenderness. So, yeah. Otis Redding. Satisfaction, you know, is it the first, you know, it's certainly not heavy metal, but it rocks. You know, especially for 1965, it rocks as much as any song in 1965 ever rocked. And in 1968, Blue Cheer did their own version of Satisfaction. This is their album called Outside Inside. This one has a cool sort of a gatefold sleeve with this awesome picture of the band on the inside. In 1978, American band Devo took a sort of a different approach to the song. They didn't play that memorable guitar, well, at least not on guitar, anyway, that memorable riff, and well, it just sounds kind of different the way Devo does it, but it's fantastic. I mean, Devo version of Satisfaction is a fantastic version of the song. Speaking of Grateful Dead, it was a song that they did, you know, well, not frequently, but when they did it, I think it was usually an encore. So December 9th, 1981 in Boulder, Colorado, it was their encore for this show. Get No Satisfaction. This is a Dave's Pick, Volume 20. And then the last version I have was by the band Television, New York punk band from the mid-70s. They recorded this, well, you know, I'm not exactly sure when this was. Oh, well, here it is. All material on this LP was recorded live in 1978. 1978. I think there was like a bootleg version of this put out on cassette in 1982, and then this vinyl version came out in 2001 for this vinyl version. So this is Television doing mostly all songs that they wrote themselves. They do a couple of cover versions on here, Knocking on Heaven's Door, and the very last song they do, a 7-minute version of Satisfaction. So there's I had one more record to show you. I forgot to pull out. I'll be right back. And so just one last one to show you. On this record, April Wine, they don't cover Satisfaction, but they have a song on it. This is a fantastic album, Harder, Faster by April Wine. They have a song on here called I Like to Rock. And that song they sing about how much they like to rock. And then sort of maybe midway through, they have this part where they do the Satisfaction riff. They play that killer guitar riff. Then they put over the top of that, they play the Beatles' Day Tripper riff, which is another fantastic riff I could have mentioned at the beginning. But I think Satisfaction is probably the greatest you know, single riff for rock and roll, certainly the most memorable. So that is it. That's what I have to show you today. How'd that go? Oh, I meant to mention at the beginning, how'd that go? The name for this series comes from like when a band is sitting around in the studio trying to decide, you know, how to, maybe they've recorded 9 songs from their album, they got 3 or 4 more minutes they want to fill up, so they're talking about, you know, potential cover songs, and maybe one of them would suggest whatever song they suggest, you know, Satisfaction in this case, and you know, maybe say, you know, well, how'd that go? And they, you know, maybe start playing it there in the studio. So, but yeah, Satisfaction, incredibly memorable song by the Rolling Stones from 1965, and that's it for today. Let me know what you think about this song. I'm sure it's one of the most popular songs, like, yeah, in rock and roll. So that's it. I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks very much for watching.